Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my eyeshadow palette collection for 2018. I like to film these videos at the beginning of the year just because I think it's fun to show you guys what palettes I currently have in my collection because they do change. I declutter a lot of makeup and then I also add palettes to my collection. So these are my current favorites, my current go-tos. Although that being said, I am going to do an eyeshadow palette declutter very soon to kind of get rid of the ones that I'm not using. So make sure to stay tuned for that video. I think I'll be uploading a new declutter series or a new declutter video every Monday in February. So those videos are coming soon. Actually, one more thing before we jump into it, I thought it would be fun to do a giveaway for you guys to kind of kick off the new year and just say thank you so much for watching my videos. I know not everybody is able to buy multiple eyeshadow palettes, let alone one. And if you are, maybe you don't have these palettes in your collection and you've been wanting them. So I picked out 3 really popular palettes that I thought you guys might enjoy, and I'm going to be giving them away to one person. So the first palette I chose is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. This is one of my absolute favorites. It's such a beautiful palette. The colors are warm and bold and gorgeous, and the formula is blendable and smooth and pigmented. And I know a lot of people are a fan of this palette, so I wanted to give away like a cult favorite. The second one is a newer palette. It is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. I actually just added this one to my collection and it's beautiful. I'm wearing it on my eyes today. It's one of the most high quality Too Faced eyeshadow palettes that I've personally tried, and I think one of you guys are really going to enjoy this palette. It's just so much fun to wear. The third one is one that I actually don't have myself. I kind of want to buy it for myself, but I'm giving myself, you know, a chance to use up some of the other palettes in my collection, but it is the Tarte Tartelette Toasted palette. A lot of people love this palette, and I was trying to choose between this one and Urban Decay's Naked Heat, which is one of my favorites, but I thought it would be fun to include this one because I know a lot of people are big fans of this palette. So those are the 3 palettes that I'll be giving away to one person. If you guys are interested in entering this giveaway, just check the description box below. It will be very easy to enter, so you won't have to jump through hoops, and of course it is open internationally. So I hope you guys enjoy this giveaway and this video, and let's jump into it. So the first palette in my collection is the Too Faced Glitter Bomb palette. This palette is really unique. The shadows are actual like glitter shadows, so they're a little bit different than your typical metallics or satins, but if you can get them to work for you, they're really beautiful as accent shadows. Then I have a couple of Anastasia palettes. So I have the Self-Made palette, which was limited edition, so it's no longer available, but it's a beautiful palette. The shadows are really gorgeous. There are some unique colors, and I really enjoy the formula. And then I have the Subculture palette, which is not my personal favorite. I think the colors, though, are so unique. So on occasion, when I want one of those colors, I will use it. So I keep it in my collection for that reason. But the Modern Renaissance palette is one of my favorites. The formula is beautiful and blendable and smooth, and the colors are gorgeous. They're definitely colors that I wear a lot, and I just think the formula is one of my favorites. So I love this palette. It's probably one of my top 5. Then I have a bunch of the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palettes. So I have the Chocolate Gold palette, which is the newest palette to my collection. I'm still testing it out, but so far I just think the formula is beautiful. I've been a big fan of metallic shadows lately, and I feel like Too Faced, their shadow formula has been getting better and better. So I definitely think this is going to be a staple in my collection. And then I have the original Chocolate Bar palette, which is a great neutral palette. The Chocolate Bar palettes in general are some of my favorites. I just think you get a good color selection. The formula is just like a good quality formula for everyday wear. I love the Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette because I love warm toned eyeshadows, and you get some great neutral options, but you still get a few pops of color. Like you get a gold, a peach, and in general, it's just a really easy palette to work with. The Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette is a little bit underrated in my opinion. It has some great cool toned neutrals that just look really gorgeous on the eyes, so I definitely recommend checking out any of those. The Sweet Peach palette, again, the formula is really beautiful and blendable and easy to work with, and this is one of my go-to palettes during the spring and summertime when I just want an easy everyday go-to makeup look. I just really enjoy it. I do have the Urban Decay Naked palettes. This is a really old palette. I should probably replace it, but it was one of my first high-end palettes and I just love it so much. The colors are gorgeous. I still enjoy them. I don't wear them as much now that I have other palettes in my collection, but I really did enjoy them for a long time, and they're still good palettes, so I keep them in my collection. This one is the Naked 2, which comes with some beautiful cooler toned shadows. And then of course I have the Urban Decay Naked 3. I just love the colors in this palette so much. They're just really beautiful on the eyes. They're easy to work with, especially like the second half of the palette, I just can't get enough of it. So I kind of want to break them back out and really focus on using them again because they're some of my favorites. And the Urban Decay Smoky is probably the least used Urban Decay Naked palette in my collection. And I don't know why, because the formula is good. I feel like I just don't wear a lot of those colors, especially those center colors, but I do like the formula. And then I have the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, which is my favorite naked palette of all time. This is one of my favorite palettes ever. I just think the formula is a step above the other palettes, and I just love those warm shadows. I just can't get enough of this palette. I have a couple of Belfiore palettes, which you can actually get these as single shadows on their website. I've had them in my collection for a while. They're just really high quality shadows, so I keep them. I don't use them as much as I should. I am doing a palette declutter coming up soon, and I might end up decluttering these. I don't know, we'll see. And then I have the Lorac Mega Pro palette, which again, I really like these palettes. I don't use them as much as I should. I just have a thing about like bigger palettes in my collection. I've stopped buying a lot of them just because I don't find myself reaching for them. This one has beautiful colors, as well as the Lorac Mega Pro 3. This one has some really gorgeous shades, but I don't know why. I just feel like I reach for smaller palettes in general, which is a weird thing to say, but I feel like that's just something I've discovered about myself. So I don't buy these larger palettes as often, but this formula is really, really beautiful. That being said, the Urban Decay Heavy Metals palette is a little bit of a larger palette, and I love it. I purchased it this year. It was a limited edition palette, but I think it's still available. It's actually available for a discounted price, but if you like metallic shadows, this palette is going to be a great option for you. It comes with some neutrals, some colorful shadows, and it's just really beautiful. I really enjoy the Tarte Pro palette. I don't know if it's my favorite Tarte palette ever, but I like it. I think the colors are unique. The shadows are easy to work with. You get a bunch of matte shadows and a bunch of cooler tone shadows. And then on the right, you get some shimmer or metallic shadows. And I think the matte shadows perform better than the metallic shadows, but I just think it's a beautiful palette. The colors are really just easy to work with, and they're a little bit more unique. The Too Faced I Want Candy palette surprised me. I didn't think that I would like this palette just because it kind of looked similar to some of the chocolate bar palettes, but the formula in this palette is so high quality. The mattes are extremely blendable, the metallics are extremely pigmented, and it's a gorgeous palette. I have one Milani palette, which I really enjoy. The formula is just really beautiful. It's one of my favorite drugstore formulas, and I like the colors inside this palette a lot. I think this one's in the shade like Everyday Essentials or Earthy Essentials, something similar to that. Then I have the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette, which is really gorgeous. I love the formula of this palette. I love the colors. It's just really easy to work with. They're all matte shadows. So again, I think this will be a staple in my collection during the spring and summertime, and it will pair really well with the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. The Tartelette in Bloom palette is really gorgeous. I don't find myself reaching for it as much as I would like to. I might have to put it in my everyday makeup drawer and really focus on using it, but the colors are really beautiful. I think, again, they're easy to work with. There's some great mattes, some good metallics. So I have a bunch of ColourPop palettes. This one is the My Little Pony palette. I think I've reviewed all of their palettes, so I will link those videos in the description box below if you guys want to check them out. I think they're all pretty much still available. Some of them were limited edition, but I think you can still get at least the majority of them on their website. So if any of these appeal to you, I would recommend checking them out. ColourPop shadows are so nice. Their pressed shadows are great. I like their Super Shock shadows as well, but I think more people like the pressed powder shadows just because they're more of a typical shadow formula. The mattes are so blendable. They're one of the most blendable matte shadow formulas that I've tried, and the metallic shades are really gorgeous. The palettes are nice because they're affordable, so it's a great way to get a palette in your collection without spending a fortune, and they have a lot of different palettes. So the Dream Street palette is a really gorgeous option if you like warmer tone shadows, and I wear this one all the time. It's one of my favorites. I feel like it's a step above some of the other palettes because it is one of their newer options. This one is the You Had Me at Hello palette, which is one of my favorites. And then the next one makes a great companion palette. This one is the Double Entendre palette, which goes really well with the You Had Me at Hello palette, but you can use them separately as well. I think they're both great options. The Yes Please palette is going to be a great option for you if you are a fan of warm toned shadows. It's very warm, it's very bold, and I really like reaching for it during the summertime. The Semi Precious palette is a great option because it is a metallic shadow palette, and the formula of this palette is so high quality. It's one of their best palettes, so if you like these colors, I would definitely recommend picking it up. The Golden State of Mind palette, again, is an all glitter palette, kind of similar to the Too Faced Glitter Bomb, but it's a little bit more affordable and you get a bunch of shade options. And then the All I See Is Magic palette is really gorgeous. I feel like it's really unique to the ColourPop collection. It's completely different than all of their other palettes. So again, if the colors appeal to you, I would recommend grabbing it. The next palette is the Pure Cosmetics Soiree Diaries palette, which I got in a BoxyCharm, and it's a great neutral eyeshadow palette. You do get some purple tones, but in general, the shadows are very neutral and easy to wear. The Tarte Clay Play palette, I think that's what it's called, is one of my favorites, and they discontinued it right after I purchased it, and I have no idea why. It's such a good palette. It's one of the best palettes that I have in my collection, and I love it so much. So if there's any way you can get your hands on it still, I totally recommend grabbing it. It's so good. These are my ColourPop single shadows. So I actually have them in MAC palettes, but these are all ColourPop shadows. They're very affordable. They're $4 each, and they're just some of the best shadows that I've tried. So I have a bunch of them just because I can't get enough of them. This last palette is kind of my go-to palette, which is why it looks a little bit messy, but I switched them out in this palette depending on which shadows I'm really a big fan of. I have a couple of their 4-pan palettes as well, but in general, I kind of depot them and stick them in a bigger palette. I just ran out of room, so I keep these ones kind of separately because they are my favorites. Well, this one and then another one that I'm going to share with you. Here are some more single shadows. The ColourPop 4-pan palettes, you can actually pull the middle out and create your own little palette. And then the ColourPop Blow Me Away palette is really beautiful. And again, I just kind of ran out of room to put them in a larger palette, so I just keep them in like their 4-pan palette. So this palette is from NYX Cosmetics. It is their Earth palette, and I think these were discontinued. They were $30, which is crazy. I actually got mine on sale, but I don't know what NYX was thinking with that price tag. Their shadows are good, but I don't know if they're $30 good. I like these palettes, but the colors are so bold, so I don't find myself wearing them as much as I would like to. The next palette is the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette, which is one of my favorites. It's a metallic eyeshadow palette. There's one matte shadow up at the top, but these are really interesting and they're really beautiful. I hope they come out with a part 2 because I love this formula. It's really easy to work with, and I like these shadows because they're bold colors, but they're on the lighter side, so you get a little bit more of a less intense bold eyeshadow look, if that makes sense. This Becca palette is still available, I believe, on Sephora's website. I got it for a discounted price because it was part of their holiday 2017 collection, and I haven't actually tried it out yet, so I just have it in my collection waiting to be used. This is the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette, which was limited edition. I got it for Christmas a long time ago from my mom. I think it's a little bit on the older side, but I like this palette. I don't reach for it as much as I would like to, but it was one of my favorites at one time. The Balm's Meet Matrimony palette, I think, is the only palette that I have from the Balm. I've decluttered a lot of their palettes, not because they're not good quality, just because I never found myself reaching for them, but I like the shades in this palette. And then I have a palette that I got in a BoxyCharm. This is by the brand Winky Lux, and it's their Kitten palette, and this is really beautiful. It's one of my favorite BoxyCharm items that I've ever gotten, so I'm a big fan of this palette. And then I just got the Glam Metals palette in my January box. This has some really beautiful colors in it. I haven't actually worn it on the eyes yet. I've swatched it and it swatches really nicely, so I'm looking forward to actually wearing it on the eyes and testing it out. I just got this Real Her palette in a FabFitFun box, and again, this one swatches really nicely, but I haven't worn it on the eyes yet, so I need to try it out. The colors are a little bit cooler toned, which is a nice change. I have a bunch of the Smashbox Cover Shop palettes. So this one is the Golden Hour palette, which comes with some really beautiful colors. I think this is a great option if you want to try out one of these palettes, just because it comes with a good variety. This one is the Smoky Eye palette, which is a great option if you are a fan of smoky eye looks. I really like the green in here, the raspberry shade. And then the next one is the Matte Eye palette. So if you like matte shadows, the shadows in here are nice. I don't know, like Smashbox eyeshadows aren't my personal favorite shadows that I've ever tried. I like so many of their products, but I feel like in general, I reach for their face products or their lip products over their eye products. So I don't find myself reaching for these as much as I would like to. I should probably declutter a few of them, but in the meantime, I do have them in my collection. They're nice, smaller palettes, so if you don't think you'll finish up a larger palette and you want to try something a little bit smaller, maybe they would be a great option for you. These NYX eyeshadow palettes are some of my absolute favorite. This one is Warm Rust, which is my favorite out of the 4, and then the next one that I have is Smoke Screen, which I really enjoy as well. It just helps you create a really easy go-to smoky eye. I don't wear this one as much. This one is the electric palette, and my camera had a hard time picking up these colors. They're not quite that bright, but they are more on the neon side, so I don't really wear those as often. And then I have the Sugar High palette, which is a great option. I love all of the colors in here as well. I have one more ColourPop shadow palette. This one is the Take Me Home palette, which comes with some good neutrals. It's not necessarily my personal favorite, not because of the formula, just because of the colors, but if you're looking to try ColourPop, it might be a good option for you. I have a couple of Makeup Revolution palettes. This one is the Neutrals versus Neutrals. And again, I feel like my camera had a hard time picking up this one and the next Makeup Revolution palette, which is, I think it's called like the Iconic 3. It's really similar to Urban Decay's Naked 3. It's not quite the same formula, but if you're looking for a less expensive alternative, you might want to check it out. The Lorac Unzipped palette is a great palette. It comes with some really pretty mattes, some great metallic shadows, and I don't reach for this one as much as I should either, but it does create some really beautiful eye looks. I have one Deck of Scarlet palette, which comes with a couple of products. You get 2 lip products, 3 eyeshadows, a highlighter, and a bronzer, and I really like the neutral colors in here and that green as well. And then I have some Coastal Scents eyeshadows. These are all single shadows as well. I don't know about Coastal Scents. I don't know about their cruelty-free status. I feel like I've read a lot of conflicting info, so I haven't really purchased from them recently, but if I can find anything definitive, I would definitely purchase from them again because their shadows are really nice quality and really affordable. The Lorac Pro Matte is looking a little bit rough because I actually tried to finish this up one year, and I came pretty close. Well, not pretty close, but closer than I have in any other palette, but that's a good option if you like matte shadows. And then the Lorac Pro To Go has some really beautiful colors in it. It comes with 6 shadows, 2 blushes, and 1 bronzer, so it's a pretty good travel palette, a little bulky, but I like that you get a bunch of options. I have a couple of e.l.f. palettes in my collection. This one is a face palette because it comes with a few products, so it is the Smoky Matte palette, and it comes with 3 eyeshadows, a bronzer, a blush, and 2 lip products. And then I also have the e.l.f. Shadow, Brow, and Liner palette, which comes with some great neutral eyeshadows. So I like these because they're a little bit cooler toned and they work well for your eyes or your brows. I don't usually use them on my brows, but you can. I have one Butter London palette. This one is their Natural Charm palette, and I don't really reach for this one. I think I've worn it a few times and the quality's nice, but I just feel like I have so many other palettes in my collection, I don't end up reaching for this one very often. I have a couple of Buxom palettes. I really enjoy Buxom eyeshadows. I actually created this one just at Ulta. You can create your own custom palette, but this one is my favorite. This one is the Dolly's Wild Side palette, and I love it so much. It's like one of my favorite palettes of all time. It doesn't really look like anything too unique, but I always find myself reaching for it. The Kat Von D Shade and Light palette is really great if you're a fan of matte neutrals. It comes with some cooler tone shadows, some warm shadows, some neutral shadows, so it's just a good option to use on its own or to pair with other palettes. I have a couple of Essence Cosmetics palettes, which are really nice. They're really affordable. You can find them at Ulta or Target or anywhere Essence is sold. And then I have a couple of palettes from Catrice Cosmetics. I like this palette because it's really subtle, but it's really beautiful at the same time. I love purple shadows. And then the Essential Nude Collection eyeshadow palette is really nice quality as well, but it's only a few dollars. Finishing up, I have a few more palettes from e.l.f. Cosmetics. This one again is kind of similar to Urban Decay's Naked 2. This one is the Matte for Matte 1, which comes with some great matte eyeshadows. This one's actually the Matte for Matte 3, and I really enjoy this one, but my favorite is the Matte for Matte 2. Just because these are colors that I typically wear. e.l.f. also has these really beautiful metallic eyeshadows, which I don't wear super often, but I think I'm going to break them back out and wear them because I really enjoy the formula. They have some really fun colors to choose from, so if you're looking for a good accent palette, this might be a great option for you. Okay guys, that's the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you let me know in the comments below all about your favorite eyeshadow palettes so I can check them out if I haven't already. And don't forget to enter my giveaway. All of the information will be in the description box below. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.